Welcome to the Chronic Spoonful podcast, where we discuss real life with real chronic illness. Each week, we'll cover an aspect of real life Spoonie living and what that can mean for different chronic illnesses. We hope this will be a place you can go for updated Spoonie info and where you'll find humor, because, we're a little crazy, important information, and community. As a disclaimer, we just want to remind you that yes, we'll be talking about chronic illness and health information, but we are not your doctor. Everyone's chronic illness is different, and we are absolutely not MDs, so we are not qualified to give you medical advice. We're going to tell you unequivocally to discuss anything we talk about on this podcast with your doctor. Welcome back, everybody. I hope everyone had a great week. As we told you last week, we are now in the middle of our three-part cannabis series, and we hope everyone enjoyed last week with Michael. It was a fantastic episode with so much detail, and it was really great talking to him about everything from terpenes to the different types of cannabis. And oh my gosh, there was so much information. I think my head was going to explode. And I'm sure Nicole will agree.
It was amazing. Lots of information.
It really was. And, we really encourage anyone who's interested to join the Facebook group. We're going to continue that discussion this week with Holly Anderson. And we're very excited to have Holly on the show. Holly is a medical cannabis patient in Illinois, and she is the senior administrator for the Medical Cannabis DIY Facebook group. She has an amazing story to tell about how she got involved in medical cannabis. And we just want to welcome you, Holly, to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
She's going to teach us all kinds of stuff today, and I'm really excited. And she's got a really great energy. So, Holly, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in kind of the cannabis movement and medical cannabis and DIY stuff.
Well, I've been a medical cannabis patient for just over 3 years, like an official card carrying version. But I was not a user at all prior. I had done the few, take some hits college age. Some friends at a party would have a bong or something, but nothing. I worked a lot and I didn't have time to do that. Maybe it wasn't that I was against it. It just didn't fit into my life. I started kind of during the last recession, the 2008, when I was in the housing industry, and the stress of all the craziness that went through as that crashed kind of, I think, pushed me into overdrive of working to where I got some kind of sickness where I was really run down and, but I didn't really have insurance, so I didn't really see a doctor about it. And fast forward 5 years, I kind of just decided to retire because I really couldn't figure out what was going on. And I'd had some bouts of epilepsy, but I wasn't getting diagnosed. Well, I'd left a pretty stressful life to come and kind of chill and just hang out with people and help some charities. And I ended up starting to have these seizures. I hit my head during one of my grand mal seizures on some concrete and fractured the back of my skull. Wow. Now that was in 2015. And I kind of remember some things about being in the hospital, but after that, they recommend you sleep. I had no trouble sleeping 20 hours a day. I don't remember much of that time, but it does mess with your memory. I tried to walk my dogs once, and I'd lived here a while and I forgot where I lived. Walking back. I had to scare one of my dogs to get them to get me home. So after that, my mom was walking them for a while and helping. I was really bad from the brain injury. But as I started to kind of wake up and come out of it more, my mother had found some great books. There was great support groups for traumatic brain injury online. And I started kind of trying to rebuild but I lost senses during that time. I kind of woke up and I was like, I can't taste or smell anything anymore. And summer rolled along after I'd kind of come through winter where I'd been sleeping quite a bit. I realized I couldn't tell if it was hot outside. I couldn't feel ambient heat. Oh my God. And I started to kind of disassociate from my body, and I didn't really understand it. Now, right after the brain injury too, when I first met with doctors and I somehow was kind of coherent, they said, your antidepressants are causing seizures, so we're just going to take you off of all these. So expect to go through withdrawal. Now, a weird hint that I didn't think much of at the time, I didn't go through withdrawal. Know if it was the brain injury and I just wasn't aware of it. Looking back later, I think I had a bunch of digestive issues and I wasn't even absorbing my medications. So there was almost no point in taking them. I'd already withdrawn from them way back in the day. we didn't really know what had caused the seizures, and they were so leery of diagnosing me with epilepsy, but they finally did after the skull fracture. And I tried some anti-seizure medicines after that, but all the rest and stuff had kind of taken a lot of the stress out of my life. So I just went off the seizure medicine too. I'm like, I don't think that's the problem. I haven't had a seizure since, not because of cannabis, just don't have it. I still have the diagnosis though, and that helped me get my card. Well, I'm trying to improve my health. I'm not eating because I can't taste anything. I'm not able to go outside because I'm allergic to sun now for some reason. And I mean, all kinds of other horrible things. I always felt crappy and run down. I could never get comfortable. I always felt like I was right outside of myself. So I never really rested or felt at peace. And the doctors had no answers. I mean, I wouldn't even bother seeing them at some point. I canceled a bunch of appointments because they were just going to tell me the same thing. And it was just going to cost a bunch of money. 2 years had passed. I said, I hadn't even been paying attention to the news because I was dealing with so much physical things from the brain injury. But I realized I saw like a billboard that said, try THC, see if you have the condition. And I was like, epilepsy is written on my charts, and that's got to be a condition in every state that has medical. So I looked into it, found out traumatic brain injury was also on the charts. So I wanted to get my card for that. I wanted to put a check in that box on the state's numbers. So I went to see a doctor that advertised that he helps smooth light in the card process. This was 2018 or 2017. I didn't really get my card until 2018 because Illinois had this rigorous background check process back then. Now they have changed that since then. And if you're in a state where it's tricky, stick with it, but it was hard at first, and I got it eventually, and I ran wild with it. A lot of people were nervous as to like how to use things. I was like, I'm buying like every product. I'm trying everything, but that's kind of me. I'm kind of fearless, but I still didn't know a lot about using it. I mean, there was concentrates. What the hell are those? You could buy flour, but there was different kinds, and I went in there bravely and fearlessly and just tried a bunch of stuff. But a lot of people I started to notice were scared, and I joined like support groups. Like, how do we even use this? Or is this safe? Or what's going to happen if I take this and mix it with this? And that's when I kind of stumbled upon the Medical Cannabis DIY group, which was like a month after getting my card. So I joined, got in there, and it was just kind of starting out. Michael McGee had just started it. And I started asking questions like, well, how would I make butter, and what would be the advantages of that? And we had enough people in there who had tried things or at least made pot brownies in the past, and it just started, the knowledge started building up inside me. Everything I learned about cannabis, I learned from the group, or I deeply researched to help someone in the group nowadays, but we've learned a lot. And my health got continually better, but I still was having trouble with the weird alien feeling. And I finally kind of figured out it might be thyroid related, because when you mess up your brain, it can mess up everything else because it doesn't know how to work right. And I had no idea the extent of how damaged I was. I mean, I didn't even realize like my hair and nails weren't growing. They hadn't.
Oh my God.
But I didn't even notice that because everybody says I'm healthy, and that's just how you feel when you get older. And,
oh yeah.
You did work construction, and how many roofs did you fall off? But yeah, just no, I think I'm sick, guys. So finally, I kind of put my foot down in my doctor's office, and I said, look, would like doing some kind of special diet help? Because I'm kind of reading that the brain is, there, but the gut is the second brain. And I'm starting to find out from people in this medical DIY group that their problems are gut related, and maybe I have a gut problem. And then, he's like, well, yeah, you could go gluten-free if you could do it. And I'm like, I'll fucking eat cardboard if that's what it takes. If that makes me feel better, I don't care. You don't know how miserable I am. And I'm practically like crying. I'm like, how do I start this? He has no answers.
Yeah, because he just recommended gluten-free. Don't mind that
he didn't even recommend that. He just was like, if you can eat healthy, I'm going to do it. So I kind of walked out of there like, I'm going to figure out how. And I found like there's so much diet information on the internet.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
And so much of it's profit driven. So it's not even good diet information.
Right.
And then I found functional medicine doctors like Dr. Ruscio. He works with digestion, and they care about how it affects the rest of you. And he was dealing with other things too, like being around mold, which I may have been exposed to in my construction career.
Yes.
Absolutely. He deals with, just all the other hormones and things that are affected by our diet, but also repairing things so that you can get better there's like an order to do this stuff at.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just like start eating gluten-free if you have something you have to contend with first, like SIBO or
that's right,
even acid problems, And so I found his book and kind of followed him religiously too. And I was also asking people in the group, like, have you tried this? And what does it do? And I mean, literally starting to pick pieces of people's stories out to where I had like a basis that I could plan a diet on. And I went gluten-free. All my levels got normal. I did an actual elimination diet. I mean, on top of using the cannabis, I was having real problems absorbing edibles. And it would take 400 milligrams for me to feel it.
That's just crazy.
Fixing my diet, I also found out I had some enzymatic things that were kind of messed up. And so now I take lipase before I take an edible, and I could get away with like 60 milligrams just because of, and I think a lot of people in the group were also sharing their stories. It was a thyroid thing or a gallbladder thing. I started to notice that a lot of us had autoimmune disorders. It led me to find I probably have one. It's never been diagnosed. They've never even suggested it. They're like, maybe you have a thyroid thing. That could be. Go see an endo. I fixed it myself. I put it into remission myself. And it's cannabis and eating healthy and having the power to advocate for myself that I think my own health, taking charge of it, gave me the power to fix the things that I needed to fix. And now I want to advocate for others who need to know how to do this, and we don't have that information out there widespread or reliably.
So true, though.
Yeah,
I mean, the diet industry.
Not everybody has a team of doctors. Not everybody has access to a team of doctors. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to say that I'm going to advocate for everybody to treat themselves.
Right.
I'm going to put that out there, but I will say though that it is worth trying different things. Eating healthy was one of them. Changing foods. Eliminating this food.
Find out what you're sensitive to, because that can really wreak havoc.
That's not a problem. And trying the different types of cannabis products, and I think Michael went through that last week with the different terpenes, the different types of cannabis. The
cannabinoids like CBD, THC, CBN is getting to be a big one.
That's another big one. Yeah.
CBG helped with a lot of brain things for me, I think. I believe. I mean, I don't know. I don't have science on it, but when I introduced that, it seemed to help a lot of some of the brain fog that I didn't think was removable kind of lifted.
Right. So wow. And all of these things can really make a difference and not necessarily interfere with the medications that you're on. So that's the other side of it. Like marijuana cannabis in itself is not necessarily going to interfere with medications that we're taking already. So it's not going to be the worst thing in the world to experiment with while we're on our medication. So if you feel like medications aren't working, you can still experiment with these things while you're on them. And that's
and you mentioned too, like you don't want to advocate for people just taking over their own health plan.
Right.
If you're working with a doctor who is working with you, but I didn't really have them making any kind of plans. So I was really happy to write my own prescription to cannabis.
And they can't necessarily write you a prescription for marijuana because it's not federally.
And actually they don't. That's kind of like, there's a catch. My doctor won't write a prescription. I said, actually, he just has to verify that you have that condition on the list.
That's right.
All he has to say is she had a TBI. He has PTSD. And so that's one of every state is different, but that's how Illinois handles it.
Yeah. So let's
I think that's kind of one of the things they get around. Sure.
So let's talk about cannabis cards, because we only kind of touched on it a little last week, and we didn't get into like how to get a cannabis card or why they're necessary or mandated. Let's talk about, there are states that require cannabis cards, and you kind of touched on it.
Yeah.
A doctor will not give you a cannabis card.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about like what people have to do to get a cannabis card.
Yeah, like what the process is.
Right. Well, in Illinois, I can speak like more to the process, but I do kind of check into other states because we have different state members in our group. Most states decide a range of conditions or some kind of bar you have to pass to get your card. Illinois has a list of conditions that it's actually added to over the past years, and your doctor basically confirms that you have this. She has epilepsy, for example, and you go. with the state, you file the right paperwork, and back then you had to get a fingerprint and a photo ID. You still have to get your picture taken for the picture on the ID, but it's a lot simpler now. You can do it online. There used to be mailing things, but then they approve you, and you get, in Illinois, you get a temporary provisional access to one dispensary till your hard card comes. Then you have to change dispensaries on a website. It happens really fast, so you can go to different ones. Now, downstate, that really doesn't matter because we don't have that many, but when you live to where you can pick up some more, it's not as widespread here, but we have a better program than a lot of the new programs out there. Like Missouri, our neighboring state, for example, they have people with their medical marijuana cards and they can grow, but there's no dispensaries until just recently just started opening.
Wow.
So yeah, but I mean, they're getting a program. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But let's talk about cards for a minute, because some states don't even have a medical program and other states have recreational available on top of medical.
Correct.
For the people who don't have a card or a program in your state, you can buy off the street illegally, but I mean, I'm not recommending it, but there are still ways to get cannabinoids legally through the mail, like the hemp, through the Farm Bill, and various products that are CBD based and not THC. They can even cross state line. And if you do have recreational and medical in your state, it's usually to your advantage to still get a card in your state for medical. For tax purposes, you save money. They tax rec higher. In some states, medical people have more products to their use that they don't allow the rec people to have. So, I mean, there is an advantage. I say get as much access to everything as you can while you're on your journey. And having my card allows me to grow in this state also. So that's another advantage.
Yeah. So, I think everyone should do research in their state as to what they can and cannot do.
Definitely.
And I think you have the point. Like, you can still get access to certain cannabinoids for your state, especially CBD. And I think people just diss CBD as, well, that's not going to be as effective for me as THC. And I don't think that that's true, because I think, and we kind of touched on that with I'm going to bring up, what we touched on with Michael the previous week is, he talked about like mixing the CBD with terpenes and getting high quality CBD, not just what you buy at the gas station.
Right.
With terpenes, and you can actually get great effects for your medical conditions. We aren't doing this episode to talk about people getting high. We're talking about, in these episodes, about getting relief from chronic pain, getting relief for symptoms of our medical conditions.
Well, or even some of the anti-anxiety properties.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of our patients in Illinois specifically are PTSD patients who have other things, but just the anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, if CBD doesn't stress you out like smoking a joint, just really gets people in a scary place sometimes, CBD is not like that. It kind of goes to the pain without any of that psychoactive scaries. For my husband, for example, he's really freaked out by THC when he's accidentally ingested some, but CBD works great for him.
Right. So I don't think people should look at CBD as like this, and
it's the fad thing right now.
Yeah. But also I think that's probably because they've tried what they've bought at like the convenience store.
Yeah. Or the gas
station. And the little tincture bottles used to come out with the oil tincture full of CBD, and they really didn't explain how to use it on the bottle, and probably because they're not really supposed to. Right. So I think a lot of people kind of approach this as like, oh, okay, a 5-pack of gummies in the locked cabinet in my grocery store, I can trust them maybe. And where do you start though? How many do I take? When do I take them? I mean, dialing it in and finding a way to make it work for you without being stoned, just getting the effects that you want, I think is one of the most challenging parts of it, and one of the scariest for people.
So I don't want people to think, well, I'm listening to this and I don't live in a state where, cannabis is legal, where I can get a card or I can go get a THC based anything, all I can get is like CBD through the mail, or it's like, don't be discouraged, because there are actually things you can do with that can be very beneficial.
Very many beneficial things. I mean, I've been immersed in this like it's a darn college doctorate program, not like I'm anywhere near a doctor, but like just there's so many things to learn. But and don't let that overwhelm you, because there's something that works for you. It's kind of fun to try to find it if you approach it responsibly.
So let's talk about that too, because you
Sure.
go, you have your diagnosis, which a lot of our listeners are like, well, I've probably got something that's on that crazy list.
Uh-huh.
They can get their medical card and they've applied and they get it, or they live in a state, whatever,
Where it's recreational and they can go in and try whatever. Yeah.
Where I live, like I live in
Yeah.
California, I can go anywhere. I actually
Well, and it just became legally recreationally last year in Illinois.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 dispensaries within 5 miles of me.
Right.
So yeah, Nicole's very jealous.
I am. I'm like, I'm
Calm
moving.
down. Yeah.
I actually have 2 in my tiny town that are 5 miles of me, but that's just a weirdness of where I live. Yeah,
I will
it doesn't
tell you,
happen that
it's
way.
even worse. I can have it delivered to my house.
Which I'm so jealous about, Holly, because we can't do that. And I'm like, come on.
I know.
It would be.
Hey, we were just happy
that
they let us come outside, pick it up. Well, because during the coronavirus, they got to stay open as an essential business, but they had to kind of bend some rules about you don't have to go inside. You can order online and they'll carry it out to your car and verify you out there.
Yeah.
And that was way overdue. I mean, some of us with chronic conditions, it's hard for us to get up into the building, no matter how accessible it is. And some of us are sickly and don't need to be around people during flu season.
That's
right. Fuck coronavirus. Let's go back before that.
That's right.
Just deliver it to me like a pizza. I'm good.
Right. Leave it at the door and knock and run away.
Yeah. I'd be in trouble. I would be ordering every day.
They still had to look at your ID and make sure and put it into the system that you were ordering it. But
I would be.
Right.
It was.
And that's understandable. I totally get that they need to track everything, but I'm glad that it became more accessible if that was one of the advantages.
It is
kind of
advantage. I'm just going to be the first to tell you it's a huge advantage of living here.
Yes.
And why I pay through the nose to live in California.
Mm-hmm.
Not the only reason why I pay through the nose to live in California, but it's a nice little bonus.
One of the reasons. Yeah.
One of the reasons. But there are legal issues though when we talk about cannabis, like there's the federal classifications of cannabis. There's the state classifications, and there's a lot of fighting going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
With all these classifications.
In federal, a lot of people are like, oh, everything will be fine when we federally legalize it. But the truth is each state is kind of in charge of handling it right now. And so like I was talking about a little earlier, just with the fact that I live in Illinois, it's gotten better here. I mean, a lot of people, there's still a lot to do. It's gotten better. Obviously, because they're limited by state, it's hard to travel with it. But a lot of people do. They're really not looking for this at the airports. I mean, obviously you can't bring just all suitcases full of weed, but if you bring a vape pen, some capsules and some gummies, they're probably not going to say anything. But also, I mean, with it becoming more widespread, someday it will have to be some type of federally legal. And I have no idea what that'll look like or what that'll do to the industry. And quite frankly, I don't care. I just want to be able to access it. And I want everyone who wants to try it to be able to get a reasonable, safe product.
Well, I think the key is in here, and I agree with you. I think I want it to be more widespread. I want more states to adopt this, but the one thing I would say is that we need more people to advocate on a national level for this to become legalized, and we need more people to voice their opinions here on this and to voice it to their senators and their legislators. And this is from my background, and this is me talking here, but until our voices rise up and until we say, we need this, they won't do it. So, and the funny thing is there's actually a lot of legislators that have money in these industries, and we're just not exposing them for it.
Maybe we should have to call them out a little so we can see where their interests lie. One of the things that kind of chaps me about it is some states will limit the potency of bud or the amount of cannabinoids in a concentrate or something. And if you're a medical patient and you're trying to make edibles that will last you X amount of time, and you can't get a bud that's over 12% THC, you're going to have a heck of a time extracting all the things that you need out of that if you plan to cook with it. It just angers me that they're taking a natural product and they're kind of commercializing it in ways that makes it so that we can't do our own thing with it. I mean, we are a medical cannabis DIY. We do our own thing. And I prefer to make my own medicine, and I prefer to make my own tinctures with CBD I mean, I just know what I've made and what I got out of it. So I don't have to buy it from a gas station or
head shop or something.
or spend a ton of money at a CBD store for something I can make for $10. Why should I pay $100 for it?
Exactly.
Yes. And I agree. And I think I think we need to put more pressure on the people that make the laws.
Right. And let them keep it to where we can do where it is natural, where it's not a pharmaceutical thing that's controlled in a rigorous way. Because
that's
everyone has different effects with cannabis, and we really can't pin somebody down to, okay, here's your, dose of melatonin, 2 milligrams. That's all you can have. It's different for everyone. It's such a wide range of health benefits and so many ways that you can use it for so many different conditions and get the different effects, that them trying to harness it in any kind of way upsets me too. And I will stand up against, anything that comes in like that to the best of my ability anyway.
So
and others do need to too.
The issue is that what we're seeing in California now are a lot of corporate entities trying to take over the cannabis industry. And I don't mean like corporate entities that already exist. Some of them have tried to come in, but like these cannabis industries that are now becoming these bigger corporations.
They're almost monopolizing the industry and controlling things a little too much.
Yeah.
It's commercialized.
It is. It's commercializing, and that's becoming an issue too. However, that's the bad side. The good side is because they're commercializing, it's becoming more well-known, more accepted. It's actually getting the attention of the legislature. So now you're getting like, oh, well, now you can, instead of because they actually have like a limit on food products having a certain amount.
Oh, yeah. That happens a lot in different states.
Yeah. But now they're like, oh, you guys want to increase that? And so these corporations now have more lobbying power, and they're like, we need to put more in there. People aren't buying the products. So now they're like, oh, yeah, you should double that. So it's a double-edged sword.
And we have, anytime we can just, like you said, get the info out to people, get it more socially acceptable. Maybe that one person accepts it, but their family's weird. I think it's spreading out in the zeitgeist more in the culture across the country, and southern states are starting to get medical cards and better programs, and I mean, Indiana has like a great hemp industry. They're not that far away from getting a program going over there too. It's going to happen. I just hope that we still have a way that we can control how we use it for our benefit. I hope they don't take away the natural
separation between the commercial aspect and the medical aspect too. And the
you and me both, because us medical people lose when commercial and rec steps in.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about, is that the recreational side hurts the medical side in this.
Well, and even in our group, we try to kind of stay away from the recreational culture of it. I mean, it's fun, and sometimes you get a little high and you get to chill, but the medical thing is much more important. We deal with people who can barely afford to buy it. And so we want to be serious about how it's the limited quantities we can afford here in this state where we can, use. So we've been like high on the get the most out of the most bang for your buck, finding the most effective way to use cannabis, like vaporizing versus smoking it, maybe cut my bud usage in half.
Wow.
I mean, simple ways to like save money, figuring out the best, things to buy to get the edible effects that you want, so that you're not using more product than you need to, or you don't get super stoned, you just get pain relief. We learn all those things so that we can more effectively use our medicine. But like I was kind of pointing out, there is no real science behind it because of the illegality. And now we've got a bunch of anecdotal evidence of like, this helps with pain, but you kind of need a clan to help you with this, like another source, a community. And that's kind of what our group is. We call it the Canna Fam because we help each other out. And, we have people who've had similar conditions. I didn't even know I had an autoimmune condition. To this day, the doctors never even named it, but I figured it out with the Canna Fam, and I figured out what helps it with them sharing the anecdotes of what helped them. I mean, whether it be a strain that seemed to work, or a way of cooking it that seems to absorb better, or a whole different method of using it.
Right. And that's what we talk a lot about on the podcast is coming, we have all these Facebook groups and support groups that we join for our different chronic illnesses. And this is no different. This is no different. This is a group that's coming together to deal with, either PTSD or chronic illness, but a way to.
We've got a bunch of people with MS and all the pain disorders and like Crohn's and IBS. And I mean, Ehlers-Danlos was recently approved to be a condition in Illinois, but a lot of people in our group that were originally a lot of Illinois people were already on something else, another condition, but we're using it to, I mean, it's amazing. Like some of the conditions that aren't on our list might be on another states, but people still use things that aren't, I mean, just heck for me, the whole, just working on any ways to get rid of inflammation for me was, I think helps so many people with all these conditions, if Crohn's, MS, the painful ones, there's so many, but
rheumatoid arthritis.
So many, we could be here for hours.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, if you named all the conditions, and so many of them are pain related, but if you think about it, inflammation causes pain.
Yes, it does.
And CBD and THC and CBG and all those are all targeted in one way or another. You just have to figure out which one's going to target yours. I'm happy that it's becoming more widespread and accepted. I still worry that it's going to be hard to get, all the products and stuff that we need medically sometimes when it gets to be more profit driven and the recreational and the state's tax bases, the greed sets in and it kind of takes the safe parts out for us who need it.
I agree. I think like I say, it's a double-edged sword. You want to legalize it. You want to make sure it's not an underground thing anymore. You want it to
make it acceptable.
But as it becomes more acceptable, as it becomes more legalized, the greed sets in for people. It just does. In the United States, it's really hard for people to find a happy medium.
Capitalism.
Yeah.
It's all about the dollar bill.
We have a really hard time with it here.
Well, and I think as a medical patient, I'd been unable to work for years before I finally bit the bullet and got the cannabis card. And for me, I think, being able to get out and do things to help people, even though I've made it so I don't necessarily have to go out and get a job right now. So I can spend my time even teaching a class just to make people not afraid to like make suckers or gummies or make a pain patch so you don't have to spend $20 at your dispensary for one.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah, they get costly.
They're so expensive.
Oh my gosh.
But they work so great. And I heard horror stories from my budtender that people were buying them and cutting them in eighths.
Yeah.
And because they're $20 a patch.
They are.
And they're not even that high dose, but they work that well. And so we figured out a way to make them.
Which
with
is awesome.
Regular bandages. I mean, wait till you come in there and see that.
I haven't even explored all the files yet.
I know, but I mean, patches are like, they're so easy to like hide and medicate at work. If you had to like stick one on the top of your foot, put your shoe on. My big thing is topicals, and I wouldn't be using them if I had to pay dispensary prices.
It's $60 for a little thing of lotion.
For a little ounce of oil.
Yes.
And I make my own 2-ounce containers for like $10. I mean, it's just a matter of knowing what to do with the chemicals themselves. There's all these cannabinoids, all these medicines in there. And I'm sure Michael McGee talked about it plenty on the first one, but I've literally like seen people's lives change because they could access something regularly.
And I want people to understand that, like, it sounds like we're talking about all of these crazy chemicals and all of these crazy things, but it's literally like putting together a cooking recipe. We're not talking about it. It's like baking a cake, but you're just baking a cake with different
couple different products. And I mean, it starts out as a plant. It's chemicals in a plant, but it's natural. I think chemicals gets a bad name, like cleaning chemicals or toxic chemicals, but these are the cannabinoids, the essences of the plant that can heal you. And I mean, the funny thing was, after my cannabis journey, I really found other plants to add in with, like we know lavender helps people to relax and things, but you can actually grow and buy like bulk lavender and infuse it in with the oils and put it in capsules. Helps you sleep with the CBD alone. I mean, all these foods, we don't know anymore the medicinal values. When I had to change my diet, I actually started to cook all these natural things, and it was a big ordeal, but I was wanting to get healing benefits, not just health, like lower fat and natural. I was adding spices like with wild abandon as much as I could hide in things. Like all my food's way over spiced, but all those spices have healing benefits that tie in with cannabis. And I've just integrated, my whole life's about being surrounded by these things and, using them for enriching my health. And I think we get away from that when we get in a society where doctors go, take 3 of these a day and this will help your headache, or this will help your pain, and it allowed me to change my lifestyle in a way that really helped me. And it really gave me permission to say, okay, I've got my card. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take charge of my health for me. Right. And now I want to help others do that and not be afraid to do that.
Exactly. And we're not saying that like you shouldn't take the medicine that doctors are giving you, because I know some people are very severe and they really do need the medication that the doctors are giving you. But what we're saying is like a lot of these terpenes and essences can actually help maybe reduce some of the medicines, or they can just help take the edge off of some things. I think some of the things, though, you should have in conversation with your doctor. Like you use grapefruit.
But some people shouldn't.
And some people shouldn't. Like I can't use grapefruit. It actually impacts some of my medication.
And you should even check that. There are some ingredients in topicals that affect people who take heart medicines.
That's right.
And they work great for pain, but not for you if you take a heart medicine.
And you need to ask the pharmacist. It's important to call your pharmacist and ask.
And actually even kind of double check it and look it up. Because I mean, on the internet, if you even get, just randomly check things, because if you find that somebody said maybe there's an issue, that's the time to like double check with a medical professional. And pharmacists are a great resource for that too. I think arnica in topicals, it was pointed out in our group that it hurts people on like Coumadin and things. And I was like, oh, well, I just won't use it then, because a couple of my relatives, if they get some of my pain cream, might have a reaction. So, I mean, we just gotta, but it is, I think, a good way to find out that there are natural ways to increase your health. Like I kind of compare it to, you go get your oil changed in the car is kind of like going to get your checkup at the doctor. But you still have to kind of take care of your car as you drive it around, and so I'm out in the world, like, okay, I have to take this hormone thing or something every, like in the morning and at night. But during the day, I also need to think about like, why am I having to take that? I need to keep my hormonal system balanced. So I need to stay away from things that are going to mess with that, and try to eat things that help me more, like more omega-3s or whatever that might be. Sometimes it's just getting more fruit in my diet. You don't get enough vitamin C or vitamin D, or you find you have deficiencies in things. And I think cannabis made me overall just appreciate all the health things that we could do for ourselves with food, and with even how we take care of ourselves, like Epsom salt baths with like a CBD loaded bath bomb. It's amazing for pain.
Oh yeah, it really is.
And I mean, it's a self-care thing too, but it's healthy too. Helps with muscle cramps and all, and I mean, it's, for me, it kind of forced me to do some self-care that I wasn't doing before. And we're all guilty of that.
Absolutely.
I think that, all of us need to, most of us are so used to kind of being our own doctors anyway, and doing our own medical research and all of that, and using cannabis and cannabinoids and all of these related products. It's no different. It's no different than what we would do when we would go to the doctor. We end up having to do all of our own research anyway.
Or at least back check them.
Yes. Have to.
At least you got to check on them. No, for me, that was, I think not being heard and finding out that I really had to step up and advocate for myself with my medical professional people, mostly my general care doctor. But, and then the ability to kind of share with him the things that helped me also, I think really opened his eyes to how much you can use it in tandem with your other health plans.
Yeah.
Because he kind of has it written down with like, she takes calcium, in cannabis, like it's a vitamin, but it's mostly how I medicate my issues. So
Well, it's really important that we do tell doctors, say, hey, you know what, whether you believe in this or not, I have, my doctor is very open. He doesn't necessarily, he's like, I'm on the fence. He's like, but I want to know every time I come in, he's like, okay, how is cannabis working for you?
That's awesome.
What kind of cannabis are you using? Are you smoking? Are you doing edibles? But he's so open to learning. And I appreciate that, because I run across people all the time that make really ignorant comments. And they're like, oh, you're a stoner. And I'm like, I am a cannabis patient. Oh, you're a stoner. You just want to sit around and get high. I've had people tell me directly that.
Oh, and me too. They go, you don't work. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't work for money. I'm doing this all day. Yeah. It's not, it's a job, but it's odd, because some people, I do have something to say about that though. If you got your card, I know some people have like the one doctor in town and they're real weird about this. And sometimes they feel like they have to keep things from their doctor. I wish it wasn't like that. But there are times where certain doctors in certain situations, use your discretion on that one. Absolutely. But I'd encourage you to try to, if you can. Absolutely. I mean, it's so worth getting your physicians more knowledgeable and open. I mean, you're just, like you said, on the fence, but he's hearing you. He's hearing you and he's open to you. And that's amazing.
I've had friends that were dropped as patients for using cannabis because the doctor was so against
their pain cards. Yes. That's another thing that happens to them. And I mean, my God, how scary is that?
They will take your pain medication from you at times. Yes.
And if you're trying to transition out of using pain meds with cannabis and then just cut you off, I mean,
well, that's just dangerous. And that's just dangerous. You can go through withdrawal from dropping pain medications.
You can.
Real quick. It's a really horrible, hellish withdrawal. Yeah. I mean, hopefully that'll changes in the future to where they realize that these things can be used in tandem. I know a lot of people who have successfully weaned down off of super high doses of like Oxycontins and Vicodins and stuff that were messing with their day-to-day functioning.
Yes.
And now they can only use them when necessary, or only like starting the day or finishing the day. But it's nice to be able to, some of these really heavy side effect laden RX meds it's nice to be able to cut them back if you can't cut them out, or deal with the symptoms of the side effects.
Well, yeah,
I had that happen too. So
let's talk about the different ways we can use cannabis, because we didn't really go over that much in the last episode, and I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, like the patches. And
there are so many interesting ways that when I think people start out, they think, oh, we're going to smoke it. Maybe we'll get a joint, or, but there are flower and bud, the typical green plant matter of cannabis that you can smoke or vaporize or cook. Then there's, the concentrates that you can also inhale, but I actually wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them all. I mean, edibles, obviously. But there's like kind of different edibles, because you can do like a tincture sublingually and it'll kick in faster than the hour that it takes edibles to kick in. So technically you're ingesting it, but it's going in through the lining in your mouth. So sublinguals kind of fit topical and they kind of fit edible. Topicals, to me, if you can afford them or make your own, that would be if I had to pick one way to medicate, that would still be the one. And topicals, all the way from like you put it on a bad shoulder or a bad back or a messed up ankle to you put it all over so it soaks in a little everywhere and just relieves neuropathy. Even my husband used like a CBD mentholated topical for his sinus headaches, kind of like he puts Vicks on, but the CBD seems to help a little bit more. Wow. That's one of my favorites. Now, when you talk about like the topicals, there's also the transdermal patches, which have a chemical in them that helps get it into your bloodstream. So you're bypassing all the brain interactions and you're just getting what's basically kind of the medicine, not the liver part. So it's not psychoactive. So to me, it kind of seems to go more to the pain. And with the basically the sublingual type things, there's also suppositories, which a lot of people don't like to talk about, but we do all the time in the group. Yeah. And I even call them magic butt plugs.
Yes, they are great.
Because they're muscle relaxers that actually work with no side effects.
Yes.
Yeah. When people are scared to try them, when people are scared to try them, I said, no, seriously, like get past that whole butt thing. Because this could be the difference in feeling intense amounts of pain or actually being able to relax.
And Holly, isn't it? I read somewhere that if you actually use suppositories, you're getting the most of the plant matter rectally.
I believe that. And it gets into your bloodstream, but bypassing the liver. So if you have absorption issues or you have the freakouts when you eat an edible, this is kind of just for pain. I mean, literally, like a lot of people say after they do their suppository and they kind of like, wow, it worked. An hour later, they realize they're cleaning the house because they feel, I hear that all the time. And
suppositories
it's like, wow,
are
really?
amazing.
They are. And I found mine completely by accident. I was babysitting this big dog for a friend of mine and he saw a bunny and I have little guys, so I wasn't used to the pole. And I just kind of pulled a muscle in my back and just like got real bad all of a sudden. So I got back to the house and I crawled into the kitchen and I decarbed some concentrate, added some coconut oil, and I literally just took the syringe and squirted it up there. And I went from like an intense back spasm to fine in 30 minutes. Because I nipped it in the bud. But I mean, and that's an injury. All kinds of pains are different. You know, there's neurological pain. Pain wasn't even one of my big things because I was so disassociated with my head injury. But I do have them, you know, but everybody has different ones. Like neuropathy can be incredibly hard to treat as a pain. Yes. And I've seen wonderful things happen with different combinations and so many people who suffer so poorly with that neurological pain and the nerve damage pain. I mean, pain's one of our big things, pain and regulating like all the inflammation so that we can move freely. I think a lot of different disorders and disabilities deal with that specifically. And just being able to soothe that, it can be game changing for people.
It can. And people really, it's important too that systemic inflammation isn't just dangerous because it causes you pain, but it also causes heart attacks. It also
and long-term damage.
Very long-term damage. It is extremely important to deal with systemic inflammation.
Right. Well, and the inflammation of my gut, I think, was letting toxins into my body through like a leaky gut syndrome. And so I had to curb that inflammation before I could even really start healing because I was just constantly like putting out toxins. I literally realized after I started getting better that I had eaten the plastic off the remote control I used when I was really sick because of oils coming out of my hands. My sunglasses too, along the side of my head, just plastic was just eating off like I was acid or something.
Wow.
And I didn't even notice at the time because I was so brain damaged, but I was really sick and I could have taken that to the doctor and been like, look at this, what is happening? But I wasn't advocating for myself until I put my foot down and said, I'm doing this and I'm standing up for the things that I need to heal. And some of that's going to be natural medicine. And I mean, cannabis is a huge, huge chunk of that, but eating and even like I said, adding the lavender to CBD oil and the terpenes, I'm sure McGee talked about, or I cook with a crap ton of lemongrass, even though it's not something you normally season with, because there's myrcene in it.
Oh, lemongrass is awesome.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But and rosemary, cook with it. Stick as much as you can in your food.
And I diffuse it. I diffuse it in the house in my diffuser,
and it's I want to all of these things. Yes. All these things naturally heal you, and it's changed my whole lifestyle and approach to taking care of myself, and it's forced me to sit down and really take responsibility for taking care of myself. So
I totally get that
because I didn't before.
Me neither.
But you know, if you don't take care of your health now, you'll spend a heck of a lot more time trying to fix it later.
Oh yes, you will.
So it as much as I feel guilty for taking a bath this morning, I totally needed it for self-care.
Yeah.
I don't think people should feel guilty for self-care, and I especially don't think people with chronic illnesses should ever feel guilty for
I agree.
It's weird in our culture, though. We do, don't you think? Like our culture
it's a cultural thing.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't even work today. Why are you feeling like you have to take an extra dip of ice cream or, light up a scented candle? Well, fuck you.
That's right. Because everyone feels like we need to earn every single thing we do, even a relaxing thing.
That was a huge thing I fought with as I got better. I had to fight that all the time. Like, I don't need to do this. No, I do. I have to stand up for myself. I've let my health go for too long. I have to do this. And I think getting your cannabis card and forcing some of your family members or friends who might be a little judgy and uncomfortable to accept that I'm here to heal. I think that is a big thing you could do for yourself. A big moment to say, I'm choosing me.
And take baby steps. If you're not super comfortable, take baby steps. Like I took baby steps into it. I started Like I'm not a smoker either. So I started with edibles. So it was really easy for me to like just kind of hide the edibles over here, and I would take them at night, and I would
a little socially acceptable because vitamins come in gummies.
Exactly.
So
right. Like,
nobody's gonna say anything if you eat a piece of chocolate.
And then I was like, okay, these are kind of working. And then I took the next step, and then I took the next step, and like you slowly take your steps into it, and then
and journaling
it. My dad to the dispensary, but.
Yeah, but keeping like a log too, so you know what works, because you won't remember. I think, going into it still with kind of some of the confusion and just my whole life was out of order. So I actually, the first year after getting my card, I looked back through my browser history to see and I realized how many of the strains I had been researching, but also methods. And it kind of, where I hadn't journaled, it kind of like reminded me of my journey over that year and how much I didn't know starting out that I already knew that I'd forgotten I didn't know. I mean, we always kind of jokingly say that in the group, we forget what we didn't know, because when people are starting, I mean, literally the first time I got some butter out and was going to dump some flour into it, I was like, are you sure? It just seems, I just spent a bunch of money on this and this seems weird. And eventually nowadays, sometimes I never, there are no stupid questions in our group, but I forget sometimes like how scary it is the first time you try something.
It is.
And it's slow and steady and be comfortable with it. But I want to teach people not to be afraid of it too. You know, you get nowhere in life if you don't try new things and take risks at
That's
some point.
the truth.
Yeah. And my motto in the group is also, I try it so you don't have to. So if you're scared to try something, I totally do. I've got your back. So.
I love it.
I've started things on fire. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, I'll rewire. I have one. I'll rewire it and try it. What the heck?
Volunteer as tribute.
That's right.
But somebody has to. And I mean, my brain injury made me fearless. Let it be me. So.
Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And
thank you for having me.
This was so much fun and so educational. And I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this show. And I really encourage, again, if people really want to start on their journey with medical cannabis and seeing what it can do for them, to join the group.
Definitely.
Start, learning more, taking it step by step. And we will put the Medical Cannabis DIY Facebook group and Instagram link in the show notes. People can find it there. Yeah, I wish everyone a good week. And Holly, thank you so much.
Definitely. Holly, you were awesome.
Find your Canna fam.
Yeah.
Find your Canna fam. Yes. That's the best thing you can do to figure out how to help. Find the people around you who share your interest in this, and join our group.
Yes. Thanks again, Holly. Appreciate it.